I don't think that's reasonable, but okay. Do you have anything? Do we need to talk about Uma Thurman?
Kill Bill.
So, Uma Thurman a couple months ago was, everybody who'd had anything to do with Harvey Weinstein or, was kind of asked for a reaction. I think Uma Thurman said, give me a little bit to collect my thoughts and I'll make an announcement in the future. And today, right, she talked about how Harvey Weinstein, basically tried to rape her a couple times. And also she's pissed at Quentin Tarantino for treating his actors with a lack of safety. She told a story about how when she was working on Kill Bill, she was asked to drive a vehicle herself at 40 miles an hour down a dirt road, and she lost control of the vehicle and suffered a concussion and lost 2 weeks of work, I guess. Is that something like that? And told another story about how, for reasons of authenticity, he asked Diane Kruger to let him choke her into unconsciousness during the shooting of Inglourious Basterds. So this is the latest revelation of bad behavior, which makes people think that, for the near future at least, that people in Hollywood are going to be more aware of guys' potential for creepy behavior.
My response is, and I said this off camera, I'll say it now, I've always thought Diane Kruger was one of the most beautiful women. She actually played Helen of Troy, the most beautiful woman in the ancient world, in the Troy movie, and they curled her hair, which was a big mistake. Without her curled hair, she's gorgeous, more clearly one of the world's most beautiful women. And now I find out that you can strangle her into unconsciousness because she's a real trooper and will do anything, will put up with anything. So I'm even more attracted to her.
Well, hold on. I find the whole curly hair thing racist and triggering as a Jewish person with curly hair.
Well, that's the thing. They were trying to make her look Greek, and I think she looked much better with her natural straight blonde hair. But
apologize to curly hairlands.
Actually, like every good Jew, like every good Jewish man, I prefer German-looking women. Call me a racist. I'm not running for president.
Wait.
Yes?
I prefer non-blonde women because blonde women are too scary to me.
Well, here's one, and one of the best ones. You can strangle into unconsciousness because she's a good sport. I mean, think about that.
Maybe too good a sport.
Actually, I'm going to look right at the camera. If you can strangle a woman into unconsciousness and she'll put up with it because she's a good sport, imagine what else you can do.
No, now we've gotten fully creepy. And
Speaking of sport, today was the Super Bowl.
Okay. You're just being sarcastic.
No.
Right? Come on.
I'm being deadly serious.
He's being sarcastic. And
No, it means she's a real trooper.
All right, she's a trooper, but you don't approve of that. A director should not be strangling his people into unconsciousness.
I don't think his director should, but I think that a woman should do what she. I think a woman should be willing to put herself out a little bit to please a guy.
Not get strangled into unconsciousness.
No, but if she's willing to do that, I mean, she's probably willing to do the dishes and take out the trash.
All right, okay, let's go on to the next thing. This is getting too weird. And by the way, I'm not really triggered by statements against curly hair.
And by the way, I don't care if you don't elect me president.
All right.
Today was the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Wait, there's more.
Okay.
Turns out now they're going into the museums and they're taking down all the paintings done by men that were mean to women. And they're taking down the nudes
Picasso's?
of They started.
Picasso
they
was kind of a
started.
cad.
They started with a famous artist named Chuck Close,
Yeah.
and he got in. There were some accusations against him, which he denies. Chuck Close is a man that is.
He's a photorealistic painter.
Yeah, and he's paralyzed from the neck down, and he's in a wheelchair. And he was accused of sexual harassment by 4 women. And he also, and they're taking his paintings down. And they've also decided to take down some nudes of women. So the whole thing has gotten crazy, which is, of course, what was going to happen. I mean, it could never have worked out any other way.
I kind of agree with that, but then things will settle down and we'll...
No, they won't, because you dirty, rotten, politically correct Democrats will be able to get more votes from women if you keep this shit up. So it's just going to keep going until the Democrats are crushed. The only way to stop it is to stop the Democrats.
Well, that's ridiculous. And we're not going to have empty museums. If somebody turns out to be an a-hole and he gets a few paintings pulled for a while...
You're for it. You like that shit, huh?
Well, I think I'm not a fan of either extreme of the pendulum, but I'm a fan of people being aware of reasonable standards of behavior.
Okay, this is what Chuck Close did.
He said some dirty stuff to people.
He said, okay, probably shouldn't repeat it, but basically...
Well, so let's not repeat it.
Okay, I'll sanitize it. He is accused of having a woman come to his house and then asking her to take her clothes off, which I don't know why she did that. No woman has ever done that for me.
Unless you pay them.
No, I pay them. I pay them top dollar. I pay them top dollar, and they're professional nude models. He actually had women that he met come to his house, his studio. He asked them to take their clothes off, and they do. So they take their clothes off, and they say, the woman said reluctantly she did, but to be nice, to be polite, she did. I thought to myself, what do you mean to be polite? Since when do women take their clothes off to be polite? And then what he does is he sort of propositions them in a kind of a crude way. And one of them claims that he blocked her exit with his wheelchair. Thanks for laughing. Because I pointed out that if any woman I know had her exit blocked by a guy in a wheelchair that was 73 years old and paralyzed from the neck down, she would beat him so badly that they would never find the body. So I just think it's crazy that I'm supposed to believe that women are these superior feminist people that are all Wonder Woman ninjas now, but they can't get by a guy in a wheelchair that's paralyzed from the neck down in his mid-70s? I mean, and then to get even with him, they go to the press and said, he wouldn't let me out. I mean, for God's sake, Rick, you Democrats have a lot to be responsible for. This is because of you Democrats.
Let's talk Hegelian dialectic. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. You have one thing, then you have a reaction that goes maybe a little too far, and then people arrive at a new understanding.
It's only getting worse in my life, and it's because the Democrats see a way of benefiting from it.
I mean,
they've got thousands of women mobilized wearing pink hats, and they love it. They love this stuff. The more that happens, the more votes they get. The more Democrats, women, are brainwashed into thinking that they have to be afraid of a guy in a wheelchair, so they better vote against Trump, the more the Democrats love it.
2 minutes.
Yeah, that's kind of a mischaracterization in my mind. Okay. So, people will calm down, we'll come up with new standards. Maybe it'll lead to some better behavior overall.
So today with the Super Bowl, you want to talk about that, Rick?
It turned out to be a pretty decent game. The football was moved more yards in this game than in any other professional football NFL game in history. They moved it like 1,192 yards. 2/3 of a mile. And it was the second highest scoring Super Bowl in history. So it was a good game.
What'd you think of the halftime show?
I was playing HQ Trivia, which was having a halftime show of its own. It seemed okay, though. People were making fun of. There was supposed to be a Prince hologram. There was enough protest against that. They didn't have it. I don't know. It was fine. My wife didn't like Justin Timberlake's haircut.
Okay. And I actually have an original theory I'd like to present.
You got a minute.
I think that the football players should not be allowed to wear padding or helmets. And if that happened, there would be a lot less of those terrible concussions because they'd start learning how to play and not depend on their equipment.
Well, you'd have to change the rules, too.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things would change, but it would be, the players would not be having these terrible concussions that give them brain damage because they'd learn to control themselves better. So, because they'd have to. So I believe we should take away their helmets and their padding. And that would solve the problem. Because right now, I feel too sorry for those guys to watch the games anymore.
Yeah, I think we need to turn to physicists to decide if that's the way to go, or whether we need more padding.
Natalie Wood, Robert Wagner seems to be a person of interest.
Yeah, he's in a what may be a murder, and it probably is a murder that happened 30 years ago.
With whom?
Robert Wagner was married to Natalie Wood. They've kind of reopened the investigation, and now he's a suspect. And now he's just old as hell. It's like it's beyond a cold case. It's an absolute zero case.
I have no opinion.
I mean, yeah, if they can nail him now, then
Roland!
all right. 39.2. Not really point two in terms of the episodes that we roll out, that the point this and point that. It's just, we used to roll out like 8 episodes of 10 minutes each per session because we thought that's how YouTube worked, but lately we've been like saying F it and going 40 minutes. So don't worry about the point twos and all that junk, okay?
All right, so what happened was I read the dossier, and it's actually, there's 35 pages of accusations and a lot of stuff that is just sort of not relevant. And
Not relevant how?
well, for example, they talk about what Putin's goals are. Now, Putin may very well have those goals. He, I don't know, wants advantages over Turkey or something like that, or, his views on how best to, whether he wants better relations with the U.S. or worse. And these are just sort of things you would read in any magazine. Like, if you could call me up and say, what do you think Putin feels about this? And I could say, well, I think Putin probably wants, to have a big navy, and there's a lot of stuff like that.
So it seems like it's backgroundy stuff.
Well, it more,
sets the scene.
No, it's not backgroundy stuff. It's sort of like when you ask a guy like Christopher Steele what policy. Oh, by the way, I also in our last show I said Christopher Steele. The Christopher Steele.
Wait, Steele as in
the Christopher Steele investigation where they had him speak to the intelligence committee, but I really meant Glenn Simpson,
the guy who runs Fusion GPS.
Yeah, I meant him. I didn't mean
Okay.
Christopher Steele. So I read his testimony before Congress. The guy that runs Fusion GPS named Glenn something or other.
Yeah, that guy.
And anyway, but they were asking Christopher Steele, and I can't pay it right now. I just got to get this out.
Okay.
They were asking Christopher Steele everything he could find out that might hurt Trump. And he filled it. He put a lot of filler in about his views on what Russia's goals were. And, like for example, does Russia want to have a great power policy like the 19th century countries when every power sort of tried to pursue its own goals totally selfishly and in conflict with all other countries, which was what led to World War I? Or does Russia want a sort of détente post-World War II where America can be seen as an ally? So it was just like his opinions.
It's like if you asked Kissinger what he thought about this
Stuff like that. So a lot of that I didn't write down because it wasn't relevant. So what I did was I thought to myself, okay, I am not an FBI investigator. So what I'm going to do is but I've heard from a variety of, like probably 20 different sources, that this dossier is not taken seriously. So I thought to myself, the only thing I can do is read the 35 pages myself and see if there's anything in it I think doesn't make sense. Because I don't want to rely on other sources. I want to rely on my own judgment, and this is the dossier.
Well, it's not, with the caveat that it's not, according to the FBI, and the Democrats, it's not everything that was relied upon in...
That's a separate issue.
Okay, but go ahead.
This is the dossier.
This is the dossier everybody's talking about.
Yeah, okay. This is the dossier that Christopher Steele wrote up, and I want to know for my own self whether it makes any sense. Because people were saying you could read this dossier even without being an FBI investigator and determine that it doesn't make any sense.
Well, go ahead and say what...
Okay, so the first thing is, it said that Putin was using Russian Jews to further his nefarious schemes. So to live in a country where the FBI can say, supposing you really like a candidate, let's say Sanders runs again, and you love Sanders. Do you want Trump to be able to order the FBI to make up a story about him? Yeah, he has sex with prostitutes in big sex orgies in Russia. Let's get a surveillance on the guy. Do you want that? Is that the world you want to live in, Rick?
We have different standards for getting these
FISA
warrants.
Your standard is very simple. If you think people should be able to make up anything they want about Trump and then go get a judge to agree to put a surveillance on him, I'm telling you, that's not the America we live in.
I don't think the dossier was made up. I think it's the result of research that Michael Steele did.
Yeah,
without saying that everything in it is 100%.
But he's not been independently verified. We don't listen, Rick. I've told you this before, and I'm going to say it again because I hope to shame you a little bit. Right now, in the United States, the only person in America that still believes the dossier is true is you. The Democrats don't defend that dossier. Nobody believes it's true. Nothing's been verified. The FBI called off all investigation to verify that dossier.
You're mischaracterizing.
No, I'm not. Nobody believes it. There are no corroborating witnesses. It's just this one man's word. And if there were other witnesses saying, yeah, I saw Trump at a sex orgy in Russia, someone would have come forward. Nobody has. Nobody's been investigated. You believe the dossier. Nobody else does. Not the Democrats, not Obama, not Clinton. No one believes the dossier but you, Rick.
Well, that seems like hyperbole.
Okay. Can we stop now?
Well, one more thing, and then we can stop. How many people work for Robert Mueller?
I don't know.
It has to be at least 20, right? You keep hearing about all the prosecutors he's brought in.
True.
And it's probably closer to 40.
Okay.
And they've been working for a year.
Yes.
And being hardworking lawyers, they probably work for 50 hours a week or 2,500 hours a year. So 2,500 hours times 40 people is 100,000 hours of this investigation going on. 100,000 lawyer hours or investigator hours or whatever. And we know the very tiniest shreds about what that investigation has turned up or verified to the point where indictments can be delivered. But 100,000 hours means that there's some kind of investigatory edifice that has been constructed. And that edifice could consist of various things. One is that we looked at stuff and everything was fine and almost everything was above board. And we don't have any reason to charge anybody with anything beyond the people we've already charged. That's at one extreme. At the other extreme is they found a lot of stuff and they're going to deliver a lot of indictments. But we don't know yet. But we do know that a lot of investigating has been going on, and probably that investigating has a huge overlap with some of the topics discussed in the dossier. So whether or not the dossier has been disavowed, this investigation that's probably taken up 100,000 hours by Mueller will deliver something like, if not 100% verifiable truth, some stronger evidence one way or the other about what was going on with Trump and the people around him. So I gotta say, the watchword of this frickin' thing is wait and see. But in the meanwhile, maybe frickin' surveil. That's all I got. You can rebut and then we'll break.
Okay. I think it's really sad, frankly, that at this point, I am not sure whether Rick, do you believe what you're saying? I mean, look, I don't want to put you on the spot.
Which part? Tell me specifically
what. Do you think that what's
me
in the dossier was true? Do you think that?
Do
you think that Trump is a double agent for Russia?
No, I think that's an exaggeration.
No, but that's what it says.
Well, no, that's...
If you're willing to give up Ukraine to Russia, you're a double agent for money. Like if Putin gives you a deal,
then we're getting into semantics. But the deal is,
do you think?
Do I think that Russia
Trump is working with Putin?
Do I think that Trump is in a position to be manipulated by Russia?
Do you think he's being blackmailed by Russia because of all the prostitutes he was with?
Because
that's what the dossier says.
Well, that's one of the things it says.
But you believe that?
No, I think it's possibly true, but not necessarily. And I've said that all along.
Okay, but see, here's the problem, Rick.
We're
adults. We're not 12 years old.
But wait, let me tell you what I do believe, because you keep kind of semi-mischaracterizing. I think there's a pretty good chance that Trump is subject to manipulation by Russia due to maybe some psychological factors, and I don't know how you pin those down, but also due to his financial entanglements with, I don't know if it's with Russia directly or with actors who themselves are entangled with Russia.
Rick?
Like Deutsche Bank.
Rick, the dossier says he doesn't have financial entanglements.
Well, the dossier is not the whole thing.
But see, this is what my problem is. You don't have anything else. You made this long mathematical argument that mathematically they have to have something else because there have been so many lawyer hours.
Well, they keep saying that.
Yeah, but there isn't anything else, Rick.
Then I have to say wait and see.
Yeah, I know. You keep saying wait and see, and I keep saying wait and see. Eventually, we'll find that Rick is a child molester. If you wait long enough,
let's not
the
say
evidence
that,
will
because
come
that's.
up.
Let's not say
No,
that.
because you're a slanderer. You have no evidence. I make my decisions. I'm in my 50s. I don't make my decisions based on hope.
But
okay, you keep telling me you've got evidence, or they've got evidence, and so far there is no evidence. The only evidence.
But I just said
the only evidence we have.
You mischaracterized what I said, because I just said there's a chance that there's nothing against Trump, or there's a chance that there's a bunch against Trump.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, you can't keep saying, well. I, being a 12-year-old, say, you can't say it isn't true, but you can't say it is true. No, you have to make a decision.
I don't have to.
No. Listen, Rick, I'll tell you what I do. I'll tell you what Lance does, okay? Lance is in his 50s. And Lance says, Democrats don't have any evidence. I don't see Trump doing anything to help Russia. The dossier is obviously full of crap. So, you know what? I'm just going to drop it. That's what Lance says.
You'd love if they dropped it.
Yeah, Lance says, unless I see Trump helping Russia take over the Ukraine, unless I find one of these Russian prostitutes saying, I've got Trump's DNA in a vial here, he's been having sex orgies with me, then I have to say, you know what? And, barring any other evidence other than the only evidence we have is that Hillary Clinton paid $12 million to Fusion GPS
160,000,
to
which
Christopher Steele alone. Overall, she paid $12 million to get the Oppo research.
I don't know about. All I know is about the 160.
Okay, the 160,000 was to Christopher Steele. The 12 million was for the overall investigation. Now, barring that is the only evidence we have of collusion with Russia. The only evidence that we have.
You like to say that, but other people say no, it's not.
No, but the other people don't have any evidence, Rick. Like yourself, they have no evidence.
You're saying Mueller has no evidence.
I'm saying if he does, you don't know it, and I don't know it, and he hasn't released it. He may, but he never has. Whereas I do have evidence that the Clinton campaign paid the Russians for a dossier full of crap. I know that to be true. No matter how much math you do, I know that the Democrats colluded with Russia to get a dossier full of lies that they released to the press 1 week before the election.
You have been you've accepted entirely what you're told by your right-wing media
No, I read
sources.
it myself, Rick.
And
I read it on the internet. I read the dossier.
And you've decided.
I know that we shipped weapons to the Ukraine. I know that Clinton paid for the dossier. I know that she released the dossier's salacious stories to the New York Times a week before the election. All of these things are true. I'm not making them up.
Some of them you're.
Everything I said was true. It doesn't matter. What I said was true.
You'd love to deny that the dossier started out as Republican Oppo research against.
Because the dossier was not Republican Oppo research. Christopher Steele was hired when the Democrats hired Fusion GPS.
But Fusion
No. It was the Republicans fired them after Trump got the nomination. The Democrats came in, and when they came in and gave Fusion GPS $12 million, then they hired Christopher Steele, who then dealt with the Russians, who wrote the dossier. That is absolutely verifiable.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
All right, let's. Oh.